Rain hammered against the bulletproof glass like 1,000 tiny fists demanding entry. Inside the armored Maybach, the air was thick with expensive perfume and unspoken resentment. Torrin Vance sat rigid in the back seat, his jaw clenched so tight it ached, his hand resting on the leather seat between him and the woman who wore his grandmother's engagement ring, a woman whose touch made his skin crawl. Isolde Thorne, daughter of Alpha Marcus Thorne. Strategic asset. Political necessity. Everything his pack needed to end a decade of bloodshed. Everything except the woman he actually wanted. She was talking. Isolde was always talking. Her voice was like wind chimes in a hurricane, pretty enough on its own, but grating when you were trying to focus on literally anything else. Something about the venue for their engagement party. Something about ice sculptures. Torrin wasn't listening. He was staring at the tablet in his lap, watching stock prices fluctuate, pretending the numbers meant something, pretending any of this mattered. Are you even listening to me? Isolde's voice cut through his thoughts, sharp as a blade. Torrin didn't look up. The venue is fine. Whatever you want. That's what you always say. Her perfectly manicured nails drummed against the armrest. You know, most men would be thrilled to marry into the Thorne bloodline. My father is offering you peace, Torrin. The least you could do is pretend to care about our wedding. Peace. That word again. As if peace could be bought with a wedding band and a merger agreement. As if peace didn't taste like ash in his mouth every time he looked at her and saw the wrong face, the wrong eyes, the wrong everything. I said the venue is fine, Torrin repeated, his voice dropping into that dangerous register that made lesser wolves bare their throats. What else do you want from me? Isolde's lips pressed into a thin line. She turned away, staring out her own window at the rain-soaked streets of downtown Seattle. I want you to stop looking like a man at his own funeral. Torrin almost laughed. Almost. Because wasn't that exactly what this was? A funeral for the future he'd thrown away 15 months ago when he'd made the worst decision of his life? The car slowed. Traffic. Torrin's driver muttered something apologetic through the intercom. Red light ahead. They rolled to a stop at an intersection where the rain pooled in the gutters and the neon signs from nearby shops bled their colors into the puddles like watercolor paint. And that's when it hit him. Vanilla. Rain. Torrin's entire body went rigid. His nostrils flared. His wolf surged forward inside his chest, clawing at his ribs, demanding to be let out, demanding to run, to hunt, to find. No, it couldn't be. But that scent. God, that scent. He knew it the way he knew his own heartbeat, the way he knew the weight of his own bones. Vanilla and rain. Soft and clean and utterly, devastatingly her. Ember. His head snapped to the left, eyes scanning the sidewalk through the rain-streaked window. His heart was a war drum. His hands were shaking. And then he saw her. Red hair plastered to her skull, darker now from the rain, hanging in tangled ropes around a face that was too thin, too pale, too bruised. She was crossing the street 20 feet ahead, moving slowly, carefully, like every step hurt. And strapped to her chest, Torrin's breath stopped. 2 babies. Tiny things bundled in a faded chest carrier, wearing matching hats with little barriers. One infant's face was tucked against her collarbone. The other stared out at the rain with wide, solemn eyes. Eyes that were 2 different colors. One blue, one gold. Just like his. The world tilted. Everything Torrin thought he knew, every carefully constructed lie he'd told himself for the past 15 months, shattered like glass. She wasn't in Paris. She wasn't safe. She wasn't living off the stipend he'd arranged, tucked away in some cozy apartment with a view of the Eiffel Tower, waiting for him to fix everything and come back for her. She was here. In Seattle. In the rain. Looking like she'd been through hell and dragged herself out the other side with nothing but willpower and desperation. And she was carrying his children. Stop the car, Torrin said. His driver glanced in the rearview mirror. Sir, we're at a red light. Stop the car. The command rippled through the vehicle like a shockwave. Alpha voice. Pure dominance. The driver slammed on the brakes even though they were already stopped. Isolde gasped, her hand flying to her chest. Torin didn't wait. Didn't think. Didn't care. He grabbed the door handle and pulled too hard, too fast, too desperate. The door didn't open. It ripped. The hinges screamed and then gave way entirely, the entire door tearing free from the frame and clattering onto the wet pavement with a metallic crash that echoed through the intersection. Torin! Isolde shrieked. What are you? But he was already gone. Already running. His $1,000 dress shoes splashed through puddles. Rain soaked through his $5,000 suit in seconds. Car horns blared. Someone shouted. Torin didn't hear any of it. He only had eyes for her. Ember had stopped in the middle of the crosswalk. She turned at the sound of the crash, and now she was staring at him. For one brief, beautiful moment, their eyes met across the rain-soaked distance, and Torin felt the mate bond flare to life in his chest like a dying ember suddenly fed oxygen. Then he saw the terror. Her face went white. Her eyes went wide. Her hands flew to the babies strapped to her chest, a protective gesture so instinctive it looked like muscle memory. And then she ran. She ran from him. Torin's wolf howled inside his skull. No. No, no, no. She wasn't supposed to run. She was supposed to what? Throw herself into his arms? Forgive him for rejecting her? Welcome him back with open arms and their children and pretend the past 15 months hadn't happened? But she was running. Stumbling, really. Her legs weren't moving right. She was favoring her left side like something there was broken or bruised or both. The babies jostled against her chest with every lurching step. She cut left into an alley between two buildings and Torin followed. He was faster. Stronger. He closed the distance in seconds, his wolf-enhanced speed letting him move through the rain like a shadow. He caught up to her 20 feet into the alley, right where the darkness swallowed the neon glow from the street. Ember. She spun. Her back hit the brick wall. One arm wrapped around the babies, the other came up in a defensive gesture, like she thought he might hit her. Like she thought he might hurt her. Stay back. Her voice cracked. It was hoarse, like she'd spent too much time screaming or not enough time speaking. Please just stay back. Torin stopped. Held up his hands. Tried to make himself smaller, less threatening, even though his wolf was raging at him to close the distance, to touch her, to make sure she was real. Ember, he said again, softer this time. Gentler. It's okay. It's me. I'm not going to. You're going to kill them. Her voice was shaking now. Tears mixed with rain on her cheeks. He told me. Garrick told me you ordered him to kill us. All three of us. That we were a liability. That you never wanted. Her voice broke entirely. Please. Please don't hurt my babies. They didn't do anything wrong. They're innocent. If you have to kill someone, kill me, but please don't. Torin couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. Couldn't process what she was saying because it was wrong. All of it was wrong. What? The word came out strangled. Ember, no. I never, Garrick said what? But she wasn't listening. She was curling in on herself, making her body a shield between him and the infants. One of the babies, the one with the visible face, started to fuss. A tiny whimper. And Torin saw it then, even in the darkness. Saw the way the baby's ear twitched. Saw the slight point to it that wasn't quite human. His knees almost gave out. Those were his sons. His children. And she'd been hiding them. Terrified he would kill them. What the hell had Garrick done? Ember. Torin took one careful step forward. Listen to me. I don't know what Garrick told you, but it's a lie. I never wanted you dead. I never wanted them dead. I thought you were safe. I thought you were in Paris, living off the money I sent, waiting for me to. He stopped. How did he explain this? How did he make her understand that his rejection had been temporary, tactical, a move to buy time until he could change the pack laws that would have gotten her killed? How did he explain that he'd failed her in every possible way? The money. Ember laughed, but it was a broken sound, sharp and bitter. What money? Garrick showed up at my apartment 3 days after you rejected me. He said you wanted me gone. That if I ever came back to Seattle, if I ever tried to contact you, you'd make sure I disappeared. He took my phone, my ID, my keys. He said the only reason you weren't killing me right then was because it would look bad if your rejected mate turned up dead too soon. He told me to run. So I ran. Torrin's vision went red. Literally red. His wolf was so close to the surface now that his eyes had to be glowing, had to be that eerie amber that humans found disturbing and wolves found terrifying. Garrick. His uncle. His beta. The man he trusted to keep Ember safe while Torrin restructured the pack's power hierarchy. Garrick had betrayed him. Garrick had stolen from her. Garrick had threatened to murder Torrin's mate and children. Garrick was a dead man. But that could wait. Right now, Ember was shaking so hard her teeth were chattering. The babies were fussing louder. And Torrin was standing in a dark alley, watching his mate, the woman he'd rejected, the woman he'd broken, the woman who'd carried and birthed his children alone, look at him like he was a monster. Maybe he was. Come with me, Torrin said quietly. Please. Let me get you out of the rain. Let me get you somewhere safe. Somewhere warm. I can explain everything, I swear, but not here. Not like this. Ember shook her head. I can't trust you. I know. And God, that hurt more than any silver blade ever could. I know you can't. But Ember, those babies are babies. They're cold. They're wet. And you're hurt. I can see it in the way you're standing. Something's wrong with your ribs, isn't it? Let me help. You don't have to forgive me. You don't have to trust me. But let me help them. It was the right thing to say. He saw the shift in her expression, the way maternal instinct warred with terror. She looked down at the babies, at their tiny red faces and trembling lips. Then she looked back at him. If you hurt them, I won't. If you try to take them from me, I won't, Torrin repeated, more forcefully this time. Ember, I swear on my pack, on my title, on my life, I will never hurt you or our children. Never. Whatever you think I've done, whatever Garrick told you, it's a lie. Please. Just please. For a long, agonizing moment, Ember said nothing. She just stared at him with those huge, haunted eyes, looking for the lie, looking for the trap. Finally, she nodded. Once. Barely. It was enough. The walk back to the car was the longest 30 seconds of Torrin's life. He didn't touch her. Didn't reach for her even though every instinct screamed at him to carry her, to shield her from the rain, to wrap her and those babies in his arms and never let go. But she flinched every time he got too close, so he kept his distance. Walked beside her like a shadow, close enough to catch her if she fell, but far enough that she wouldn't bolt. The Maybach was still idling at the intersection, door hanging off its hinges on the wet pavement like a broken wing. Isolde stood beside it, her designer heels clicking against the asphalt, her face twisted into something ugly and sharp. She was shouting something at the driver, probably demanding he explain why her fiancé had just committed vehicular destruction in the middle of downtown Seattle. When she saw Torrin approaching with Ember, her mouth snapped shut. For 3 heartbeats, nobody moved. Rain fell. Car horns honked in the distance. And Isolde Thorne stared at the bedraggled woman holding 2 infants like she was trying to solve a particularly offensive puzzle. Then her eyes narrowed. Her nostrils flared. And Torrin watched in real time as she caught the scent, as recognition flashed across her perfect face, as understanding dawned cold and brutal. You've got to be kidding me, Isolde said flatly. This is her? This is the mate you've been pining over for 15 months? This rogue. Ember's spine went rigid. Her chin lifted despite the fear still swimming in her eyes. Something defiant flickered there, something that reminded Torrin of the woman she'd been before he destroyed her, fierce and proud and unbreakable. Get in the car, Isolde, Torrin said quietly. Excuse me? Get in the car. He didn't raise his voice. Didn't need to. The Alpha command rolled off him in waves, pressing down on everything within a 20-foot radius. Isolde's wolf whimpered inside her, he could tell. Saw the way her shoulders hunched, the way her eyes dropped for just a fraction of a second before her pride yanked them back up. We had an agreement, Isolde hissed. Your pack and mine. This union was supposed to end the territorial disputes. You can't just. Watch me. Torin moved past her, opened the rear passenger door on the opposite side, the one he hadn't destroyed, and gestured for Ember to get in. She hesitated, looking between him and Isolde like she was waiting for the trap to spring. One of the babies started crying in earnest now, a thin wail that cut through the rain. That decided it. Ember ducked into the car, awkward and slow, careful not to jostle the infants. Torin slid in beside her, deliberately putting himself between Ember and where Isolde would sit. If she sat. He honestly didn't care anymore. Drive, he told his driver. The penthouse. Now. Sir, Miss Thorne. Can walk. Torin's eyes never left Ember's face. She was staring straight ahead, hands cradled protectively around the babies, her whole body trembling. From cold or fear or exhaustion, he couldn't tell. Probably all three. Drive. That's an order. The driver knew better than to argue. The engine purred to life. Through the open door frame where Torin had ripped away the door, he heard Isolde screaming something about her father, about consequences, about how he'd regret this. Then they were pulling away, leaving her standing in the rain like a jilted bride in a tragedy, and Torin found he didn't feel even a shred of guilt. The silence inside the car was suffocating. Ember hadn't moved, hadn't looked at him. She sat rigid against the leather seat, her soaked clothes leaving dark stains on the upholstery, her hair dripping water onto the floor. The babies had quieted some, reduced to occasional whimpers and hiccups. This close, Torin could see them properly. Could see the way their tiny fingers curled against Ember's chest. Could see the delicate points of their ears beneath those ridiculous bare-eared hats. Could see his own features reflected in their impossibly small faces. His throat tightened. How old are they? Ember didn't answer right away. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. 3 months. 3 months. Torin did the math quickly. She'd been almost 6 months pregnant when he rejected her. 6 months carrying his children, and he'd sent her away. Told her the bond was broken. Told her she needed to leave for her own safety, that he'd come for her when the pack laws changed, when he'd secured his position, when it was safe. He'd promised her it was temporary. He'd promised her he'd fix everything. And instead, she'd spent the last trimester of her pregnancy alone, terrified, running from assassins that were never coming, or worse, maybe they had come, maybe Garrick had sent people after her and she'd barely escaped. The bruises on her face suggested violence. The way she moved suggested worse. What are their names? Torin asked. Another long pause. Then, Knox and Nash. Strong names. Wolf names. Names that meant warriors and adventurers. Names she'd given them even though she thought Torin wanted them dead. Even though she'd been terrified and alone and probably half-starved, she'd given their sons names that honored their heritage. Torin's hands clenched into fists on his thighs. Ember, I need you to listen to me. I never sent Garrick to threaten you. I sent him to give you money. To make sure you had everything you needed while I dealt with the pack. The Obsidian Shadow Pack has a law, had a law. It's been in place for 3 generations. Only purebloods can mate with the Alpha line. Anyone else is considered a genetic liability. He watched her face, looking for recognition. She gave him nothing. You're not pureblood, Torin continued. Your mother was human. That made you a target the second the pack found out about the mate bond. I rejected you because I thought, his voice cracked. He swallowed hard, forced himself to continue. I thought I was protecting you. I thought if I could break the bond publicly, if I could make it look like I was choosing pack law over you, then you'd be safe while I worked behind the scenes to change the law. To make it so we could be together without you having a target on your back. You didn't break the bond, Ember said suddenly. Her voice was stronger now, edged with something sharp. You can't break a mate bond. Not really. You can reject it. You can deny it. But it doesn't break. It just twists. Gets infected. Like a wound that won't heal right. She was right. God, she was right. The bond had been there the whole time, a constant ache in his chest that he'd ignored, that he'd buried under work and politics and Isolde's incessant chatter. He'd felt Ember's pain sometimes, in the quiet moments. Felt her fear bleeding through the connection. But he'd told himself it was temporary. Told himself she was safe. He'd been a fool. I sent you money, Torin said. $50,000 a month. Wired to an account in your name. I had Garrick arrange it all. The apartment in Paris. The documents. Everything. You were supposed to be comfortable. You were supposed to be safe. I never saw a dime of it. Ember's laugh was bitter. Garrick showed up 3 days after you rejected me. I was still bleeding from where the bond tried to tear itself apart. I could barely stand. And he told me you wanted me gone. That you decided I was too much of a risk. That if I stayed, if I ever tried to come back, you'd kill me to keep the pack stable. She turned to look at him then, and the emptiness in her eyes was worse than any accusation. He took everything. My phone, my wallet, the keys to the apartment. He said I had 24 hours to disappear or he'd make it look like a rogue attack. So I left. Took the bus as far as my last bit of cash would get me. Ended up in a human homeless shelter in Tacoma. That's where I was when I found out I was pregnant. Torin couldn't breathe. Couldn't think past the roaring in his ears. Garrick. His uncle. The man who'd helped raise him after his father died. The man he'd trusted with everything. Where is he now? Ember asked quietly. Garrick. Where is he? At the pack house. Torin's voice didn't sound like his own. It sounded like gravel. Like broken glass. He's my beta. He runs the day-to-day operations when I'm in the city. So he's been stealing from you this whole time. It wasn't a question. Taking your money. Lying to your face. And you never noticed. No. The admission tasted like ash. I trusted him. I thought, what had he thought? That Garrick would follow orders? That blood meant loyalty? I'll deal with him. What does that mean? Torin met her eyes. Let her see the gold bleeding into his irises, the wolf rising to the surface. It means he's a dead man. Ember should have looked shocked. Horrified. Instead, she just nodded slowly, like she'd expected nothing less. Like she'd been living in a world where death threats and violence were so commonplace they barely registered anymore. What had he done to her? The car pulled up to the glass and steel tower that housed Torin's penthouse. The building scraped the Seattle sky, all sharp angles and reflective surfaces that threw the city's lights back at itself. It was a monument to wealth and power. A fortress designed to intimidate. Ember stared up at it through the rain-speckled window, and Torin saw her shoulders hunch. Saw the way she instinctively curled tighter around the babies. I'm not going in there, she said. Ember. No. She was shaking her head, already reaching for the door handle. This was a mistake. I shouldn't have. I need to go. I need to get somewhere safe before. You're safe. Torin caught her wrist, gently, carefully, ready to let go the instant she pulled away. She didn't pull away. But she didn't relax either. Ember, look at me. Please. She did. Those huge gray eyes, storm-colored and full of ghosts. You and those babies are the most precious things in my world, Torin said quietly. More precious than this building. More precious than my pack or my title or my life. You think you need to run? Fine. We'll run. You think you need to hide? I'll find you a place that not even God could breach. But right now, right this second, those babies are cold and wet, and you look like you're about to collapse. So please, please just come inside. Get warm. Get dry. And if you still want to leave after that, I'll drive you anywhere you want to go. No questions. No arguments. I swear it on the mate bond. It was a binding oath. The kind of promise that would cost him physically if he broke it. Ember knew it too. He saw the recognition flicker across her face. She bit her lip, looked down at Knox and Nash, at their little faces peeking out from beneath those stupid, adorable bear hats. One of them yawned, a tiny pink mouth opening wide. The other had already fallen asleep, exhausted from crying. "Okay," Ember whispered. "Okay, but just to get them warm. Then we're gone." Torin nodded. He'd agree to anything right now. Promise her the moon and the stars and every damn thing in between if it meant getting her and their children out of the rain. The penthouse was exactly as he'd left it that morning, sterile, immaculate, empty. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city. Minimalist furniture in shades of gray and black. Abstract art on the walls that cost more than most people made in a year. It was designed to impress, to intimidate. It was also completely devoid of anything that might be useful for a woman and 2 infants. Ember stood in the entryway, dripping onto the marble floor, looking around like she'd just walked into a museum. Or a trap. Her eyes darted from the windows to the exits, cataloging escape routes even as she shivered. "Bathroom is down that hall," Torin said, pointing. "There should be towels. I'll find something for you to wear." "I don't need. You're soaked. The babies are soaked. At least let me get you dry clothes." When she hesitated, he added, "Please." That word again. Please. How many times had he said it in the last hour? How many times had he reduced himself to begging? And how many more times would he have to beg before she stopped looking at him like he might strike her? Ember nodded once, stiff and uncertain. She shuffled toward the bathroom, moving slowly, favoring that left side. Torin watched her go, watched the way she kept one hand pressed to her ribs, and something inside him cracked clean through. She was hurt, badly hurt, and she hadn't said a word about it. The second the bathroom door closed, Torin pulled out his phone. Dialed a number he knew by heart. It rang twice. Then, "Alpha? It's 3 in the morning here. This better be." "I need you in Seattle," Torin interrupted. "Now." Silence. Then his head of security, Marcus, said carefully, "What happened?" "Garrick betrayed me. He's been stealing money and threatening my mate. I need him detained. I need him alive long enough to explain himself. And I need a full audit of every transaction he's overseen in the last 2 years. Your mate? Sir, I thought. She's here. With me. She's been living in the streets for 15 months because Garrick told her I wanted her dead." Torin's voice dropped to something barely human. "Find him, Marcus. Bring him to the pack house. If he runs, break his legs. I don't care. Just make sure he's breathing when I get there." "Understood, Alpha." Torin ended the call. Stood there in his empty, expensive penthouse, listening to the sound of running water from the bathroom, and felt the weight of every mistake he'd ever made settle onto his shoulders like lead. He'd thought he was being smart. Strategic. He'd thought he was protecting her. Instead, he'd nearly killed her. And now he had to figure out how to earn back the trust of a woman who had every reason to hate him, while also making sure the man who'd betrayed them both paid for every second of suffering he'd caused. From the bathroom came a sound. Small. Broken. A sob, quickly muffled. Ember was crying. Torin pressed his forehead against the cool window glass and closed his eyes. What have I become? The water shut off. Torin stood in his bedroom, holding a stack of his own clothes, a soft gray t-shirt, sweatpants with a drawstring, thick socks, knowing they'd swallow her whole, but having nothing else to offer. He'd sent Marcus to find women's clothes and baby supplies, but that would take time. Time Ember didn't have. Time those babies didn't have. He knocked softly on the bathroom door. "Ember? I have clothes for you." Silence. Then the lock clicked. The door opened a crack and a pale hand reached through. Torin passed her the stack without trying to see inside, though his wolf howled at the restraint. She was right there. His mate. Injured and exhausted, and still so afraid of him that she wouldn't even let him see her face. The door closed again. More rustling. Then it opened fully. Ember stood there drowning in his clothes, the t-shirt hanging off one shoulder, the sweatpants rolled at the waist and ankles. Her red hair was damp but no longer dripping, pushed back from her face. And without the rain and grime obscuring her features, Torin could finally see the damage. A purple bruise bloomed across her left cheekbone, another at her temple. Her bottom lip was split, recently healed, but still visible. And the way she held herself, one arm wrapped protectively around her ribs, told him there was worse underneath the clothes. "Where are the babies?" His voice came out rougher than he intended. "Bathroom counter. In the sink." At his expression, she added quickly, "It's clean. I lined it with towels. They're asleep. They're safe." Torin moved past her, giving her space, always space, and looked into the bathroom. Sure enough, Knox and Nash were curled together in the marble sink, wrapped in every towel Torin owned. They looked impossibly tiny against the white terry cloth. Impossibly fragile. Their little faces were relaxed in sleep, mouths slightly open, their wolf ears no longer twitching. Something in Torin's chest cracked wider. "They're beautiful," he said quietly. "They look like you." Ember's voice was soft, almost wondering. "Everyone kept telling me they'd look like me. Red hair, gray eyes. Human features. But they're all you. The heterochromia. The strong jaw. Even the way they furrow their little eyebrows when they're annoyed." She paused. "Knox, the one on the left, he's got your temper too." Torin couldn't look away from them. His sons. 3 months old, and he'd missed everything. Their birth. Their first cries. The first time they opened those mismatched eyes and looked at the world. He'd missed all of it because he'd been too arrogant to see the threat in his own house. "What happened to your face?" he asked. Ember's hand went to the bruise instinctively. "Nothing." "That's not nothing." "It doesn't matter." "It matters to me." Torin turned to face her fully. "Ember, please. Tell me what happened." She was quiet for a long moment, her eyes on the babies instead of him. When she finally spoke, her voice was distant, detached, like she was recounting something that had happened to someone else. "There's a shelter," she said. "In Tacoma. St. Benedict's. They let me stay there after the babies were born. The volunteers were kind. They gave me formula when my milk dried up from stress. Diapers. A place to sleep." She swallowed. "But shelters have rules. You can't stay forever. After 2 months, they told me I had to leave. Make room for someone else. I didn't have anywhere to go. No money. No ID. Nothing. So I came back to Seattle. Thought maybe I could find work. Find a place to stay. And?" Torin's jaw was so tight it ached. "And 3 nights ago, I was sleeping under an overpass. The babies were crying. I couldn't get them to stop. They were hungry and I didn't have enough formula," and her voice wavered. She steadied it. "Some guys showed up. Human. Drunk. They wanted money. When I said I didn't have any, they got angry. Started yelling. One of them grabbed my bag. I tried to stop him and he hit me. Knocked me down. I curled around the babies to protect them and he kicked me. Here." She touched her ribs. Something cracked. I heard it. Torin's vision went red. Literally red. His wolf surged so close to the surface that he felt his bones start to shift, felt his teeth elongate, felt the beast inside him demanding blood and violence and retribution. "Breathe," Ember said suddenly. "Torin, breathe. You're shifting." He forced himself back. Forced the wolf down through sheer willpower, though it took every ounce of control he had. When he could speak again, his voice was barely human. "Where are they? These men. Do you know where they are?" "It doesn't matter." "It matters to me." "Why?" Ember's eyes flashed. "So you can go kill them? Add more bodies to whatever pile you're already building?" "I don't need you to avenge me, Torin. I need you to let me and my babies disappear before someone else decides we're a liability." "Our babies," Torin corrected softly. "They're our babies. And you're not disappearing. Not again. Not ever." You don't get to decide that. The hell I don't. He took a step toward her, stopped when she flinched. Held up his hands in surrender. Ember, listen to me. You have 2 broken ribs. Maybe 3. You're malnourished. Dehydrated. Exhausted. You need medical attention. The babies need proper care. You can't go back out there. I've survived this long. Surviving isn't living. Torin's voice cracked. God, Ember, look at yourself. Look at what the last 15 months have done to you. You're a shell. You're running on fumes and maternal instinct and sheer stubborn will. How much longer do you think you can keep going? A week? A day? What happens when you collapse? What happens to Knox and Nash when you can't protect them anymore? Ember's face crumpled. For a second, Torin thought she might cry. Instead, she straightened her spine, lifted her chin, and met his eyes with something fierce and broken and defiant. Then what do you want from me? She asked. You want me to stay here? In this gilded cage with you? Pretend like everything is fine? Like you didn't rip my heart out 15 months ago? Like I didn't spend every night of my pregnancy terrified that someone would find me and finish what Garrick started? Her voice rose. You want me to just forgive you? Just trust you? After everything? No, Torin said quietly. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I'm asking you to let me fix this. Let me give you and the babies what you should have had all along. Safety. Security. A home. I don't need your charity. It's not charity. It's what was it? Penance? Restitution? Desperation? It's what you're owed. What they're owed. He gestured to the bathroom, to the babies sleeping in the sink. They're my sons, Ember. My heirs. They deserve better than alleys and overpasses and shelters. They deserve a pack. A family. A father. They have a mother, Ember shot back. That's enough. Is it? Torin took another step forward. Is it enough when you're starving yourself to feed them? When you're sleeping in the rain to keep them dry? When you're getting beaten by drunks because you can't fight back without risking their safety? He watched the truth of his words hit her, watched her armor crack just slightly. You're an incredible mother. The fact that you've kept them alive and safe under these conditions is nothing short of miraculous. But you shouldn't have to be a miracle worker. You should have help. Support. Me. Ember's breath hitched. I don't know how to trust you. Then don't. Not yet. Torin took one final step, close enough now that he could smell her, vanilla and rain, and underneath it, pain and fear and exhaustion. Stay for them. Not for me. Stay because they deserve warmth and food and safety. Stay because you need to heal. And when you're ready, if you're ever ready, we'll figure out the rest. For a long moment, Ember said nothing. She just stared at him with those storm-gray eyes, searching for the lie, the trap, the hidden knife. Then she whispered, if you hurt them, if you hurt me, I'll kill you. I don't care that you're an alpha. I don't care about pack law or mate bonds or any of it. I will find a way to end you. Torin smiled. It was the first genuine smile he'd felt in 15 months. Good. You should threaten me. You should make me earn every second of your time. I wouldn't respect you if you didn't. Something flickered in Ember's expression. Not quite trust. Not quite forgiveness. But maybe, the tiniest seed of possibility. A phone buzzed. Torin pulled his cell from his pocket, glanced at the screen. Marcus. He answered, putting it on speaker so Ember could hear. Alpha. We found him. Torin's expression went cold. Where? Pack house. He was in his quarters, packing a bag. Looks like he was planning to run. Marcus's voice was grim. We detained him as ordered. He's in the holding cells. Demanding to speak with you. I'm sure he is. Torin's eyes never left Ember's face. Did you run the audit? Preliminary results just came through. Alpha, it's bad. He's been siphoning funds for almost 2 years. Not just the money you allocated for Ember. Pack funds. Business accounts. We're talking millions. Ember's sharp intake of breath was the only sound in the room. How much? Torin asked quietly. 7.3 million. That we've found so far. $7.3 million. Money that should have gone to pack infrastructure, to families, to Ember and their children. Money Garrick had stolen while Torrin's mate lived in the streets. "I'll be there in an hour," Torrin said. "Keep him locked down. No visitors. No calls. And Marcus? If he tries to escape, shoot him. Not to kill. But make sure he understands the gravity of his situation." "Understood, Alpha." Torrin ended the call. Looked at Ember. "I have to go deal with this." "I know. You'll stay here?" She hesitated, then nodded once. "Until I decide otherwise." It wasn't a commitment. It wasn't even close to forgiveness. But it was something. It was a thread. And Torrin would cling to that thread like a lifeline. "There's food in the kitchen," he said. "Help yourself to anything. Marcus is sending someone with baby supplies and clothes. They should be here within the hour." He paused at the door, looked back at her one last time. "Ember? Thank you. For keeping them safe. For keeping yourself safe. For surviving." Ember didn't respond. Just wrapped her arms around herself and stared at the floor. Torrin left before his wolf could convince him to stay. Left before he could do something stupid like drop to his knees and beg her to give him another chance. Left because he had a traitor to deal with, and the longer he waited, the harder it would be to keep himself from tearing Garrick apart with his bare hands. The drive to the pack house took 40 minutes. Every second felt like an eternity. Every second, Torrin imagined Ember changing her mind. Imagined her gathering the babies and slipping out into the night, disappearing again into the crowds and the shadows where he'd never find her. But when Marcus sent him a security feed from the penthouse cameras, Ember was still there. Sitting on the floor in the living room, the babies on a blanket in front of her, watching them with exhausted but vigilant eyes. Still there. Still his. For now. The Obsidian Shadow Pack House was a sprawling estate 30 miles outside Seattle, hidden in the thick pine forests that blanketed the Pacific Northwest. It looked like a luxury lodge from the outside, all timber and stone and massive windows. Inside, it was a fortress. State-of-the-art security. Reinforced walls. Enough space to house 300 wolves comfortably. Torrin's wolves were waiting when he arrived. His sentries. His enforcers. His advisors. They lined the hallway leading to the holding cells, silent and watchful, their eyes tracking his every move. They could smell his rage. Could feel it rolling off him in waves through the pack bond. Their alpha was furious. And someone was going to pay. Marcus met him at the cell door. "He's been asking for you. Says he can explain everything." "I'm sure he does." Torrin's voice was ice. "Open it." The door swung open. Inside, Garrick sat on a metal bench, hands zip-tied behind his back, looking far less composed than he usually did. His silver hair was disheveled. His expensive suit wrinkled. And when he saw Torrin, something like fear flickered across his weathered face. "Good. Torrin," Garrick started. "Thank God. These idiots seem to think I've..." Torrin crossed the cell in 2 strides and backhanded him across the face. Garrick's head snapped to the side. Blood bloomed from his split lip. He looked up at Torrin with wide eyes, genuine shock written across his features. "You don't get to speak," Torrin said quietly. "You don't get to explain. You don't get to defend yourself. You just get to listen." Garrick opened his mouth. Torrin hit him again. Harder this time. Hard enough that Garrick toppled off the bench, landing hard on his side on the concrete floor. "I said listen." Torrin crouched down, grabbed Garrick by the hair, forced him to meet his eyes. "I trusted you. I gave you power. Authority. I made you my beta because you were family. Because I thought blood meant loyalty. And you repaid me by stealing millions of dollars. By threatening my mate. By lying to both of us for over a year." His grip tightened. "Where's the money, Garrick?" "Torrin, please, if you'd just..." "Where's the money?" The alpha command hit like a physical blow. Garrick whimpered, his wolf rolling over in submission, unable to resist the weight of Torrin's dominance. "Offshore accounts," Garrick gasped. Cayman Islands. Switzerland. I can get it back. I can transfer it all back. Just please don't. Don't what? Torin leaned closer. Don't kill you? Don't rip your throat out with my teeth? Don't make you pay for every second of suffering you caused? He smiled, and it was a terrible thing. Why shouldn't I? Give me one reason why you deserve to live. Garrick's eyes were wild now, darting around the cell like he might find salvation in the concrete walls. I'm your uncle. Your blood. Your father. My father would be ashamed of you. Torin's voice dropped to a whisper. My father built this pack on honor. On loyalty. On the principle that we protect our own. And you? You threatened a pregnant woman. You stole from families. You betrayed everything we stand for. He released Garrick's hair, stood up, looked down at the broken man at his feet. My mate has been living in the streets for 15 months. My sons were born in a homeless shelter. She was beaten 3 days ago and couldn't even afford to see a doctor because you stole the money that was supposed to keep her safe. I didn't know she was pregnant, Garrick said desperately. I swear I didn't know. You knew enough to threaten her life. Torin roared. The sound echoed off the walls, and somewhere in the pack house, wolves howled in response to their alpha's rage. You told her I wanted her dead. You terrorized her. You made her run. And while she was out there starving and scared and alone, you were living in luxury on stolen money. She was a liability. Garrick finally snapped, his composure cracking completely. She was going to get you killed. The pack would never have accepted a half-breed Luna. The council would have. Torin kicked him in the ribs. Once. Twice. Heard something crack. Garrick screamed. The council answers to me, Torin said coldly. The pack follows me. And if they have a problem with my mate, they can take it up with my wolf. He crouched again, grabbed Garrick's face, forced him to look up. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to give Marcus access to every account. Every password. Every stolen dollar. And then you're going to confess. Publicly. In front of the entire pack. You're going to tell them exactly what you did and why. And then I'm going to exile you. Exile. Garrick's voice cracked. Torin, please, that's a death sentence for a wolf my age. You're lucky I'm not executing you outright. Torin stood, turned toward the door. You have until sunrise to comply. If you don't, I'll let Ember decide your punishment. And something tells me she'll be far less merciful than I am. He left Garrick sobbing on the cell floor and walked out without looking back. In the hallway, Marcus fell into step beside him. What are your orders, Alpha? Get the money back. All of it. Put it in a secure account under Ember's name. She decides what to do with it, not me. Torin paused. And start the process of rewriting the pack laws. I want that pure blood clause gone. Anyone who objects can challenge me directly. That's going to cause problems with the council. Let it. Torin's smile was sharp. I'm in the mood for a challenge. Dawn was breaking over Seattle when Torin returned to the penthouse. The sky bled pink and gold through the floor-to-ceiling windows, painting the sterile space in warm colors that made it look almost welcoming. Almost like a home instead of a showroom. He found Ember exactly where the security feed had shown her, curled on the floor in the living room, the babies nestled against her chest, all 3 of them asleep on a makeshift bed of couch cushions and blankets. She'd positioned herself with her back to the wall, facing the door. Even in sleep, she was protecting them. Even in sleep, she was ready to run. Torin's heart clenched. He moved quietly, carefully, not wanting to wake them. But the second his shoe touched the hardwood, Ember's eyes flew open. She went rigid, one arm automatically curling tighter around Knox and Nash, the other bracing against the floor like she might need to push herself up and bolt. It's just me, Torin said softly, holding up his hands. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to startle you. Ember relaxed incrementally. Barely. Her eyes tracked him as he moved into the kitchen, keeping distance between them, giving her space to breathe. He could see the exhaustion etched into every line of her face. She hadn't really slept. She'd closed her eyes and rested, but she hadn't slept. Probably hadn't slept properly in months. How are they? Torin asked, nodding toward the babies. Fine. They ate. I found the formula Marcus brought. Her voice was hoarse. Thank him for me. For the supplies. You can thank him yourself when you meet him. I'm not meeting anyone. The words came out sharp, defensive. I told you. I'm staying until I'm healed enough to leave. That's it. Torin bit back the argument rising in his throat. Now wasn't the time. She was scared and hurt and running on fumes. Pushing her would only make her dig in deeper. Okay, he said instead. Did you eat? Silence. Ember. Did you eat? I wasn't hungry. Torin turned to look at her fully. Really look at her. The way her cheekbones stood out too sharp. The way his clothes hung off a frame that used to have curves. The way her collarbones protruded like knife edges above the neckline of his T-shirt. When was the last time you had a real meal? He asked quietly. I eat. That's not what I asked. Ember's jaw tightened. I eat enough to keep my milk production up. Or I did, until it dried up anyway. The babies always ate first. Always. Of course they did. Of course she'd starved herself to feed their sons. Of course she'd given them everything and kept nothing for herself. That was who Ember was, who she'd always been. Fierce and selfless and willing to sacrifice everything for the people she loved. And Torin had left her to do it alone. I'm making breakfast, he said, turning back to the kitchen. You don't have to eat it. But I'm making it anyway. He heard her shift behind him, the soft rustle of blankets. You cook. I'm a man of many hidden talents. Torin pulled eggs from the refrigerator, bread from the pantry, butter from the door. Shocking, I know. The ruthless alpha CEO can make scrambled eggs. I didn't say I was shocked. You were thinking it. A pause. Then, so quiet he almost missed it, maybe a little. Torin smiled despite everything. It was such a small thing, a tiny crack in her armor, a moment of something almost normal between them. He'd take it. He'd take any scrap of normalcy she was willing to give him. He cooked in silence. Scrambled eggs with cheese. Toast with butter and jam. Fresh fruit cut into manageable pieces. Nothing fancy. Nothing that would make her feel like he was trying too hard. Just food. Sustenance. The kind of simple meal that said, I want to take care of you without demanding gratitude in return. When he set the plate on the coffee table in front of her, Ember stared at it like he'd presented her with a live grenade. I'm not hungry. Your body says otherwise. Torin settled on the couch, not on the floor with her, keeping that distance she needed. Your hands are shaking. You're pale. And I can hear your stomach growling from here. I said I'm not. Ember. He met her eyes. Please. Just try. If you can't finish it, that's fine. But try. She looked at the plate. At him. At the babies still sleeping peacefully against her chest. Then, slowly, she reached for the fork. The first bite was hesitant. The second less so. By the third, she was eating like someone who'd forgotten what real food tasted like. Like someone who'd been living on vending machine scraps and shelter donations for so long that actual eggs and toast were a luxury. Torin watched her eat and felt something in his chest twist painfully. This was his fault. All of it. Her hunger. Her fear. Her distrust. He'd done this to her as surely as if he'd starved her himself. Garrick confessed, he said quietly. This morning. In front of the pack council. Ember's fork paused halfway to her mouth. What did he say? Everything. The stolen money. The lies he told you. The threats. Torin's hands clenched into fists on his knees. He's been exiled. Stripped of his rank and his place in the pack. As of sunrise, he's rogue. That's it? Just exile. Ember's voice was flat. Dangerous. He threatened to kill me. He stole millions. He destroyed everything. And you just let him walk away. Exile is a death sentence for a wolf his age. Torin's voice was equally flat. He has no pack. No protection. No territory. He'll be hunted by rogues and rival packs within a week. If he survives that long, starvation or exposure will finish him. He won't last the month. Good. The word came out vicious. I hope it's slow. I hope he suffers every second. Torin didn't disagree. Couldn't disagree. Because he hoped for the same thing. Hoped Garrick died screaming in a ditch somewhere, alone and afraid, feeling a fraction of what Ember had felt. The money, Torin continued. All 7.3 million. It's in an account in your name. You can access it whenever you want. Do whatever you want with it. I'm not asking for it back. It's yours. Reparations for, he stopped. What was the word? For ruining your life? For nearly killing you and our children? For everything. Ember set down her fork. Stared at him. $7 million. And 300,000. Yes. That's... She laughed, but it was a broken sound. That's insane. I don't need that much money. You need whatever makes you feel safe. Torin leaned forward, elbows on his knees. You need whatever gives you options. Whatever lets you decide your own future instead of having it dictated by circumstance or by me. Take the money. Invest it. Save it. Burn it. I don't care. It's yours. Why? Ember's eyes were bright with unshed tears. Why are you doing this? The money, the clothes, the food, all of it. Why? Because I owe you. The words came out raw. Because I destroyed your life and I'm trying to give you the tools to rebuild it. Because those babies, our babies, deserve a mother who doesn't have to choose between feeding them and feeding herself. Because you deserve to sleep in a bed instead of on the street. Because his voice cracked. Because I love you. I've loved you since the moment I caught your scent at that stupid pack gathering 2 years ago. And I will spend the rest of my life trying to make up for the fact that I was too much of a coward to fight for you when it mattered. Ember was crying now. Silent tears tracking down her bruised cheeks. You can't just say that. You can't just throw out, I love you, like it fixes everything. I know it doesn't fix anything. Torin stayed where he was, even though every instinct screamed at him to go to her. I know sorry doesn't cut it. I know love isn't enough to undo 15 months of hell. But it's the truth. And I need you to know it. Even if you never believe it. Even if you take that money and disappear and I never see you again. I need you to know that I loved you then, I love you now, and I'll love you until the day I die. Stop. Ember's voice broke. Just stop. You don't get to do this. You don't get to make me feel. She pressed her hands to her face. I'm so tired, Torin. I'm so tired of being scared. Of running. Of not knowing if I'll be able to feed them tomorrow or find a safe place to sleep or keep them warm. I'm tired of flinching every time someone looks at me. I'm tired of waiting for the other shoe to drop. And now you're here, offering me everything I needed 15 months ago, and I don't know if I can trust it. I don't know if I can trust you. Then don't. Torin's voice was gentle. Don't trust me. Trust the money in your account. Trust the lock on this door. Trust that if I try anything at all that makes you uncomfortable, you can leave. You have the resources now. The options. The power. I'm not holding you hostage. I'm giving you choices. One of the babies stirred. Nash, based on the way his little nose scrunched up before he started to fuss. Ember immediately shifted, adjusting her hold, making soft shushing sounds. The baby quieted, settling back against her chest with a sigh. They love you, Torin said softly. Look at how they relax when you hold them. How they calm at your voice. You're an incredible mother, Ember. I'm a terrible mother. Her voice was thick with self-loathing. I let them be born in a shelter. I couldn't keep them fed properly. I got them caught in a beating. I dragged them through rain and cold and... You kept them alive. Torin interrupted fiercely. Against impossible odds. With no help. No resources. No pack. You kept them alive and healthy and loved. That doesn't make you terrible. That makes you extraordinary. Ember looked at him then. Really looked at him. And for the first time since he'd found her in that rainy intersection, Torin saw something other than fear in her eyes. He saw longing. Desperate, painful, terrified longing. She wanted to believe him, wanted to let herself fall into the safety he was offering. But the wounds were too fresh, the betrayal too deep. Trust wasn't something that could be demanded or even asked for. It had to be earned. One small moment at a time. One kept promise at a time. And Torin had a lot of promises to keep. I have a meeting this afternoon, he said, changing the subject before the moment could shatter. With the Pack Council. They want to discuss the law changes. It's going to take a few hours. I can cancel if you need me to stay or go. Ember wiped her eyes. I'll be fine. The babies will be fine. Marcus will be here. In the building. If you need anything, I won't. All you have to do is call. He's completely trustworthy. I'd stake my life on it. Okay. Ember picked up her fork again, pushed eggs around her plate. Torin? Yeah, thank you. For the food. And the clothes. And she gestured vaguely at the penthouse. Everything else. I know I'm not acting grateful. I know I'm being difficult. But I am grateful. Even if I can't show it right. You don't owe me gratitude, Torin said quietly. You don't owe me anything. I'm the one in debt here. Not you. He stood, grabbed his jacket from the back of the couch. Paused at the door. Ember? One more thing. She looked up. You're not alone anymore. I know you don't believe that yet. I know you think this is temporary or conditional, or that I'm going to change my mind. But you're not alone. Whatever happens between us, whatever you decide about our future, you and those babies have a pack now. You have family. You have me. And that's not going away. He left before she could argue. Left before he could see the doubt cloud her expression again. But as he rode the elevator down to the parking garage, his phone buzzed with a notification from the penthouse security system. Motion detected in the master bedroom. He pulled up the camera feed, watched as Ember carefully transferred the sleeping babies into the expensive crib Marcus had delivered, then stood there for a long moment, just watching them breathe. Then she climbed into Torin's bed, the first real bed she'd slept in since he'd destroyed her life, and within seconds, she was out. Deep, exhausted, genuine sleep. The kind of sleep that only came when someone finally felt safe. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't even close. But it was a start. The Pack Council meeting was exactly as brutal as Torin had expected. 12 wolves sat around a massive oak table in the Pack House's formal meeting room, all of them older than Torin by at least 2 decades, all of them clinging to traditions that should have died out generations ago. Elder Miriam spoke first, her white hair pulled back in a severe bun, her blue eyes cold. You're asking us to abolish a law that has protected this pack's bloodline for 3 generations. I'm not asking, Torin corrected mildly. I'm telling you. The pure blood law is gone. Effective immediately. On whose authority? Elder Miriam's voice rose. You may be Alpha, but the Council. The Council advises. Torin's voice didn't rise. Didn't need to. The Alpha decides. That's how this works. That's how it's always worked. If you have a problem with my decision, you're welcome to challenge me. Any of you. He let his eyes roam the table, meeting each elder's gaze in turn. Watched as, one by one, they looked away. Even Elder Miriam, with all her bluster and righteous indignation, couldn't hold his stare for more than a few seconds. Because at the end of the day, they were wolves. And he was the alpha. And pack law was built on strength, not democracy. The law was put in place for a reason, Elder Thomas said carefully. He was the oldest of the council, nearly 80, his face a roadmap of wrinkles. To prevent dilution of alpha blood. To ensure strong heirs. My sons are stronger than any pure-blood whelp you've produced in the last 50 years, Torin said flatly. They're 3 months old, and they're already showing signs of premature shifting. Their wolf ears appear when they're emotional. Do you know how rare that is? How powerful a wolf has to be to shift that young? Silence around the table. They're true alphas, Torin continued. Both of them. Born with dual-colored eyes. Born with strength that shouldn't be possible. And their mother, my mate, is half human. So tell me again how the pure blood law protects our bloodline. Tell me how it makes us stronger. Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like the law almost cost me the most powerful heirs this pack has seen in a century. More silence. Then Elder Miriam said, quietly, where is she? Your mate. If she's so important, why isn't she here defending herself? Because she's recovering from 15 months of hell that my former beta inflicted on her while you all sat here debating bloodlines and purity. Torin's voice went cold. Because she has broken ribs from being beaten by humans while she tried to protect my children. Because she's been living in homeless shelters and under bridges while Garrick stole the money I sent to keep her safe. That's where she is. And she's not defending herself to you because she doesn't owe you a damn thing. Language, Elder Miriam sniffed. Torin smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. That's the worst of my language you're going to hear today, Elder. Trust me. Elder Thomas cleared his throat. If we abolish the law, what precedent does that set? What's to stop other pack members from mating outside our ranks? Nothing, Torin said. And good. Let them mate where they find love. Where they find strength. Where they find compatible bonds. This obsession with pure blood breeding has made us weak and insular. Look at the data, I know you have it. Look at how many pure blood matings in the last 3 generations have produced weak heirs. Heirs who can't shift properly. Heirs who die young from genetic disorders. Heirs who... Enough. Elder Miriam's voice cracked like a whip. You've made your point. Have I? Torin leaned back in his chair. Because I'm getting the sense that you still think this is up for debate. Let me be crystal clear, it's not. The law is abolished. Anyone who wants to mate a pure blood can do so. Anyone who wants to mate outside the pack can do so. And anyone who has a problem with that can bring it up with me directly. Outside. Where there are no rules and no councils and just wolf against wolf. He let that sink in. Let them understand that he was offering them a challenge. A real one. Fight him for leadership or accept his decision. No one took him up on it. There's one more thing, Torin said. In 2 weeks, I'm holding a pack ceremony. A formal introduction. Ember will be presented as my mate and Luna. Nox and Nash will be presented as my heirs. And every member of this pack will swear loyalty to them or leave. Those are the options. Loyalty or exile. That's not protocol, Elder Miriam protested. A Luna should be chosen by the council, not. A Luna is chosen by the mate bond, Torin interrupted. By fate. By the moon goddess herself. I don't need your permission, and neither does Ember. But I'm giving you this warning out of respect. If anyone challenges her, if anyone threatens her or our children, I will consider it a direct challenge to me. And I will respond accordingly. The threat hung in the air like smoke. Finally, Elder Thomas nodded. Once. Slowly. Understood, Alpha. The others followed suit. Some grudgingly. Some with visible resentment. But they nodded. They accepted. Because what choice did they have? Torin stood. Meeting adjourned. The ceremony is 2 weeks from today. Be ready. He left them sitting at that table, left them to their whispered complaints and outrage, and didn't look back. Because he had more important things to do than manage the egos of wolves who couldn't see past their own outdated traditions. He had a mate to win back. And sons to get to know. And a family to build from the ashes of everything he'd burned down. 3 days passed in a strange, fragile rhythm. Ember stayed in the penthouse. Not because Torin asked her to, but because the babies needed stability and she needed time to heal. Her ribs were still tender. Marcus had arranged for a discreet doctor to examine her, a wolf healer who asked no questions and offered no judgment. 2 cracked ribs. Severe bruising. Malnutrition bordering on dangerous. The doctor had prescribed rest, proper meals, and time. All things Ember had been denied for over a year. Torin gave her space. More space than his wolf could stand, truth be told. He left early for the office, came home late, always made sure there was food in the refrigerator and supplies for the babies. He never pushed. Never demanded. Never tried to force conversations about the future or the bond or anything beyond the immediate present. But he was there. Always there. A constant presence on the periphery of her new life, waiting for permission to step closer. Ember hated how much she was starting to depend on it. She hated how she'd started listening for his key in the lock at night. Hated how she felt safer when he was in the penthouse, even if he stayed in his office or the guest room. Hated how Knox and Nash had started to recognize his scent, how they'd turn their little heads toward the door when they heard his footsteps, how they seemed calmer when he held them. Because he did hold them now. Every evening when he came home, Torin would wash his hands, roll up his sleeves, and ask, always ask, never demand, if he could spend time with his sons. And Ember would hand them over because watching a powerful alpha reduced to complete incompetence by 2 3-month-old babies was oddly reassuring. Torin was terrible at diaper changes. Fumbled with the tiny snaps on their onesies. Made ridiculous faces trying to get them to smile. Narrated everything he did in a low, soothing voice that made Ember's traitorous heart skip beats. "Okay, Nash," he'd say, carefully supporting the baby's head. "Your mother is watching me like a hawk, so I need you to cooperate here. We're going to prove that I'm not completely useless. Ready? On 3. 1, 2, Nash, no, we don't grab Daddy's nose. That's not a wow. Okay, new plan." Ember had laughed. Actually laughed. And the sound had startled her so much she'd immediately covered her mouth, like she'd committed some betrayal. Torin had just smiled. Soft and genuine and painfully hopeful. That was 3 days ago. Now it was Thursday evening. The sun was setting over Seattle, painting the penthouse in shades of amber and rose. Ember sat on the couch. She'd graduated from the floor, though she still couldn't bring herself to sleep in the master bedroom when Torin was home, watching Knox and Nash have tummy time on a soft play Matt Marcus had delivered. They were getting stronger. Holding their heads up longer, making more sounds. Knox had discovered his hands yesterday and spent 20 minutes staring at his fingers like they were the most fascinating things in existence. Nash was obsessed with a stuffed wolf toy, clutching it with surprising strength for someone so small. They were thriving. And Ember was starting to remember what it felt like to breathe without panic sitting on her chest. The door clicked. Torin's key. Ember's shoulders relaxed incrementally, a response she still wasn't ready to examine too closely. But when the door opened, it wasn't just Torin who walked in. Isolde Thorne stood in the doorway. Ember was on her feet instantly, positioning herself between the babies and the intruder, ignoring the sharp stab of pain from her healing ribs. Her heart hammered. Her hands shook. But she didn't back down. "Get out," Ember said. Her voice didn't waver. Isolde's perfect face arranged itself into something approximating sympathy. She was dressed impeccably, cream silk blouse, tailored slacks, heels that probably cost more than Ember had spent on food in the last year. Her blonde hair was swept into an elegant chignon. Diamond studs glittered at her ears. She looked like everything Ember wasn't. Polished. Powerful. Pure blood. "I'm not here to fight," Isolde said, holding up her hands. "I just want to talk." "I said get out." "Ember, please. Just 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking." "How did you get in here?" Ember's eyes darted to the door. "How did you get past security?" "I have my ways." Isolde stepped further into the penthouse, and Ember's wolf, dormant for so long, buried under trauma and exhaustion, stirred inside her chest. A warning growl. A threat. "I'm not going to hurt you. Or the babies. I promise." "Your promises mean nothing to me." "Fair enough." Isolde moved to the window, gazed out at the city. "You know, I should hate you. You ruined my engagement. Destroyed a merger that took years to negotiate. Made me look like a fool in front of both our packs." She turned, and her eyes were cold. "But I don't hate you. I pity you." Ember's jaw clenched. "I don't want your pity." "No, I imagine you don't." Isolde's smile was razor sharp. "But you have it anyway. Because you actually believe this is going to work. You think Torin is going to make you his Luna. You think the pack is going to accept you and your half-breed babies. You think love conquers all. Get to the point or get out. The point, Isolde said softly, is that you're a liability. Not because you're half-human, honestly, I couldn't care less about bloodlines. But because you're weak. You're broken. You spent 15 months living like a rogue and it shows. In your eyes. In the way you flinch at shadows. In how you're standing right now, like you're ready to run at any second. She took a step closer. The pack will eat you alive, Ember. They'll see that weakness and they'll exploit it. They'll challenge you. Test you. Push you until you break. And when you do, and you will, Torin will have to choose between his pack and his mate. He chose me, Ember said, even though the words felt fragile coming out of her mouth. He chose guilt. Isolde's voice was almost gentle. He chose obligation. He chose those babies because they're his heirs and his legacy. But you? You're just the vessel that carried them. And once he realizes that you're more trouble than you're worth, once the pack starts fracturing because their Luna can't even shift properly, he'll make the practical choice. He always does. The words landed like physical blows. Because there was truth in them. Ember hadn't shifted in over a year. Hadn't been able to, between the stress and the malnutrition and the constant fear. Her wolf was there, buried deep, but dormant. Weak. Just like Isolde said. Why are you telling me this? Ember asked quietly. Because I'm giving you a choice. Isolde pulled a business card from her purse, set it on the coffee table. There's a sanctuary. In Montana. For wolves who can't integrate into pack life. It's peaceful. Safe. They have resources for single mothers. Your babies would be protected. You'd never have to worry about pack politics or challenges or whether you're good enough. She paused. I can get you in. Tonight. No questions asked. You and the boys would disappear and Torin would move on. Everyone wins. Ember stared at the card. Torin would never stop looking for us. Torin would mourn for a while. Then he'd throw himself into pack business and eventually find someone more suitable. Someone who can actually stand beside him without falling apart. Isolde's smile was cold. I'm not offering this to be cruel, Ember. I'm offering it because I've seen what happens when a weak Luna tries to rule. I've watched packs tear themselves apart from the inside. And those babies, your babies, they deserve better than to grow up watching their mother be destroyed piece by wolves who will never accept her. Behind Ember, Nash started to fuss. A small sound that quickly escalated into a cry. Nox joined in seconds later. The sound pierced through Ember's chest, maternal instinct overriding everything else. Get out, Ember said again. Now. Think about it, Isolde said, already moving toward the door. The number on that card is mine. Call anytime. The offer doesn't expire. She paused at the threshold. You're not cut out for this life, Ember. Deep down, you know it. Accepting help isn't weakness. It's survival. Then she was gone. Ember stood frozen for a long moment, staring at the business card on the coffee table like it might bite her. Then the baby's cries intensified, and she moved on autopilot, scooping them both up, settling on the couch with one on each side, making soothing sounds even as her mind spun. Was Isolde right? Was she too broken to be Luna? Would the pack destroy her? Would Torin eventually realize she was more liability than asset? The door opened again. Torin this time. Actually Torin. She could smell him before she saw him, cedar and rain, and that undercurrent of wolf that made her own wolf whine with recognition. He took one look at her face and went still. What happened? Nothing. Ember. He moved closer, crouched in front of her. You're shaking. You're sent. Something happened. Tell me. She couldn't voice the fears Isolde had planted because speaking them aloud would make them real. Would give them power. Then Torin's eyes landed on the business card. He picked it up, read it, and his expression went glacial. Isolde was here. It wasn't a question. Ember nodded. What did she say? When Ember didn't answer, Torin's voice dropped. Ember. What did she say to you? The truth. The words came out broken. She said I'm too weak to be Luna. That the pack will destroy me. That I should take the babies and disappear before I ruin everything for you. Torin was very, very still. The kind of still that preceded violence. And you believed her, he said quietly. I don't know. Ember's voice cracked. Maybe? I can't shift, Torin. I haven't been able to shift in over a year. My wolf is buried so deep I can barely feel her anymore. And when I think about standing in front of your pack, being presented as Luna, having all those wolves look at me and judge me and see exactly how broken I am, she pressed her hands to her face. Maybe she's right. Maybe the babies and I would be better off somewhere quiet. Somewhere safe. Somewhere I don't have to pretend to be strong. Stop. Torin reached out, then paused, his hand hovering near her knee. Can I touch you? Ember nodded. His hand settled on her leg, warm and grounding. Listen to me. Isolde is playing mind games. That's what she does. She finds the weakest part of your armor and drives the knife in deep. But everything she said? It's a lie. Is it? Ember looked at him. I am weak. I am broken. And your pack. My pack will accept you because I say they will. Because you're my mate and they're Luna, and if they have a problem with that, they can challenge me directly. His grip tightened slightly. And you're not weak, Ember. You survived 15 months of hell with 2 infants. You kept them alive when everything was stacked against you. That's not weakness. That's the strongest thing I've ever seen. I can't shift. So we'll work on it. Together. When you're ready. I'm scared. The admission came out whisper soft. I'm so scared that I'm going to fail you. Fail them. That I'm going to stand up in front of your pack and fall apart and prove that Isolde was right. Torin moved then. Slowly, carefully, he shifted from the floor to the couch, maintaining that careful distance, but close enough that she could feel his warmth. You want to know what I'm scared of? Ember nodded. I'm scared that one day you're going to wake up and realize you don't need me. That you and the boys will be healed and strong, and you'll look at me and remember everything I did wrong and you'll leave. And you'd be completely justified. But it would destroy me. His voice was rough. I'm scared that I'm never going to be able to make up for what I did to you. That no amount of groveling or money or protection will erase the fact that I sent you away. That I trusted the wrong person. That I failed you when you needed me most. He turned to look at her. We're both scared. Both broken in different ways. But we're both still here. Still fighting. Still trying. And maybe that's enough. Maybe we don't have to be perfect or fearless or completely healed. Maybe we just have to be willing to try. Ember wanted to believe him. Wanted it so badly it physically hurt. The ceremony, she said. In 2 weeks. Torin, I don't think I can. Then we'll postpone it. Or cancel it. Or scale it down to just the council. Whatever you need. The pack needs to see their Luna. The pack needs to respect their Luna's boundaries. Torin's voice was firm. I won't force you into anything you're not ready for. We'll figure it out. Together. Together. That word again. Like it was a promise. Like it was a lifeline. Nash had quieted, now making soft cooing sounds and grabbing at Torin's shirt. Knox was staring at his father with those mismatched eyes, so much like Torin's it was almost eerie. She offered me a sanctuary, Ember said quietly. In Montana. For wolves who can't integrate. She said I could take the boys and disappear. That everyone would be better off. Do you want to go? Torin asked. His voice was carefully neutral, but Ember could see the tension in his shoulders. The way his hand had curled into a fist against his thigh. I don't know, she admitted. Part of me does. The part that's tired and scared and just wants peace. But another part, she looked down at the babies. At Knox reaching for Torin. At Nash's content little face. Another part knows they need their father. Need their pack. Need to know where they come from. And what about what you need? Ember met his eyes. I need time. To heal. To get stronger. To figure out if I can actually do this or if I'm just fooling myself. Then take it. Torin's voice was gentle. Take all the time you need. The ceremony can wait. The pack can wait. Everything can wait until you're ready. What if I'm never ready? Then we'll figure out a different path. He shifted Nash slightly, adjusting his grip. I'm not giving up on you, Ember. On us. But I'm also not going to force you into a role you don't want. If being Luna isn't what you need, we'll find another way. There's always another way. It should have been reassuring. It should have eased the knot of anxiety in her chest. Instead, it made everything more complicated. Because part of Ember, a growing part, didn't want another way. Didn't want to run. Didn't want to hide in some sanctuary while Torin moved on with his life. She wanted to be strong enough to stand beside him. Wanted to be the Luna her sons deserved. Wanted to prove that Isolde was wrong. But wanting it and being capable of it were two very different things. I'll think about it, Ember said finally. The sanctuary. The ceremony. All of it. Just give me a few more days. Take as long as you need, Torin said. But as he said it, as he looked at her with those golden blue eyes full of hope and fear and desperate love, Ember heard what he wasn't saying. Please don't leave me. Please choose us. Please stay. And for the first time since he'd found her in that rain-soaked intersection, Ember thought, maybe I will. The fireplace crackled softly in the corner of the penthouse, casting dancing shadows across the walls. It was the first time Torin had lit it, hadn't wanted to presume, hadn't wanted to make the space feel too permanent, too much like she was meant to stay. But tonight, Ember had asked. Had wrapped her arms around herself and mentioned how the babies seemed to sleep better when it was warm, and Torin had practically tripped over himself to get the fire going. Now they sat on opposite ends of the couch, the babies finally asleep in their crib in the bedroom, a monitor on the coffee table between them. Ember had showered, her damp red hair falling in waves around her shoulders. She wore clothes that actually fit now, soft leggings and an oversized sweater that Marcus had delivered along with an entire wardrobe's worth of options. She looked less like a ghost, less like someone barely surviving. She looked almost like the woman Torin had fallen in love with 2 years ago. Almost. Tell me about them, Ember said quietly, breaking the comfortable silence. Your parents. You never talked about them much before. When they'd had 3 stolen months together before everything fell apart. Before the rejection. Before the world ended. Torin leaned back, cradling a glass of whiskey he hadn't actually drunk from. My father died when I was 16. Challenge gone wrong. The wolf who killed him didn't expect to win, and when he did, he didn't know what to do with the power. The pack was in chaos for months. That's when Garrick stepped in? Yeah. The name still tasted like poison. He was my father's younger brother. He helped stabilize things. Helped me grow into the alpha role. Or at least, I thought that's what he was doing. Now I wonder how much of it was grooming. How much of it was him positioning himself to take what he wanted. Ember was quiet for a moment. Then, and your mother? She died giving birth to me. Torin's voice went flat. Hemorrhaged. The healers couldn't stop it. My father never forgave me for it. Never said it out loud, but I could feel it. Every time he looked at me, he saw the woman he'd lost. That wasn't your fault. I know that now. But when you're a kid and your father can barely stand to be in the same room as you. He shrugged. It shapes you. Makes you believe you have to earn love. Have to prove you're worth keeping. Ember's hand moved across the couch. Not quite touching him, but close. Her fingers rested on the cushion between them. Is that why you rejected me? Because you thought you were protecting me, but really you were proving you were worth your title. Torin inhaled sharply. She'd cut right to the heart of it. Right to the truth he'd been avoiding even in his own head. Maybe, he admitted. I told myself it was about pack law. About keeping you safe. But yeah, part of it was proving I could make the hard choices. That I could put duty before desire. That I was a stronger alpha than my father. Your father kept his mate. My father got his mate killed. The words came out harsh. By loving her too much. By refusing to see that she was in danger. He stopped. Closed his eyes. I'm not him. I won't make his mistakes. But you made different ones. Ember's voice was soft. Not accusing. Just stating fact. You pushed me away to protect me and it nearly killed me. Maybe the lesson isn't that loving someone is dangerous. Maybe it's that loving someone means trusting them to be strong enough to face the danger with you. Torin looked at her. Really looked at her. At the way the firelight caught the copper in her hair. At the bruises that were finally starting to fade. At the steel in her spine that had kept her alive when everything said she should have broken. You're right, he said quietly. You're so damn right and I was so damn wrong. I was weak too, Ember said. I let your rejection break me. I ran instead of fighting. I believed Garrick instead of trusting my bond with you. I made mistakes too. You were 6 months pregnant and terrified. I was scared long before that. She pulled her knees up to her chest, wrapped her arms around them. Want to know a secret? The night you rejected me, before Garrick showed up, I was relieved. Torin's heart stuttered. What? I was relieved, she repeated. Because part of me had been waiting for it. Waiting for you to realize I wasn't good enough. That my human blood made me wrong. That the mate bond was a mistake. Her voice dropped to a whisper. I'd spent 3 months waiting for the other shoe to drop. And when it did, when you stood there and said the words, part of me thought, see? I knew it. I knew I wasn't worth keeping. Ember, let me finish. She looked at him, eyes shining with unshed tears. I let that belief poison everything. Let it make me weak. Let it convince me that running was the only option. And when Garrick showed up with his threats, I believed him because it confirmed what I already thought about myself. That I was disposable. Forgettable. Not worth fighting for. You were never any of those things. I know that now. Or I'm starting to. She wiped her eyes. These last few days, watching you with the boys, seeing you try so hard to give us space while also trying to prove you care, it's been breaking down those beliefs. Slowly. Piece by piece. Torin set down his glass. Moved closer. Not touching, but close enough that she could feel his warmth. What else do you need? To break them down completely. What else can I do? Stop trying so hard, Ember said. A small smile touched her lips. Stop walking on eggshells. Stop treating me like I'm going to shatter if you breathe wrong. I'm stronger than that. I survived 15 months of hell. I can survive you being honest with me. Honest? Torin's voice was rough. You want honest? Fine. I think about you constantly. Every second of every day. I think about what we lost and what we might build, and how badly I want to touch you, and how terrified I am that you'll disappear the second I do. I think about our sons and how perfectly they fit in my arms, and how much I've already missed, and how desperately I don't want to miss anything else. I think about that mate bond, still there, still twisted and infected like you said, and how badly I want to heal it, but how I have no idea if that's even possible anymore. He was breathing hard now, the words tumbling out faster than he could control them. I think about Isolde's visit, and how I want to rip her apart for putting doubts in your head. I think about the ceremony and how I'll cancel it in a heartbeat if it means keeping you here. I think about Montana and that sanctuary and whether you're going to wake up tomorrow and decide that running is easier than staying. And I think, God, Ember, I think about how much I love you and how that love didn't save you before and how maybe loving you isn't enough if I can't prove I'll do better. Silence fell. The fire crackled. The baby monitor transmitted soft sleeping sounds. Then Ember's hand covered his. Skin on skin for the first time since he'd found her. I'm not leaving tomorrow, she said quietly. Or the day after. Or the day after that. I'm not promising forever because I don't know what forever looks like yet. But I'm here now. And I'm starting to believe that maybe I deserve to be. Torin's fingers curled around hers. You deserve everything. Then give me honesty. Give me space when I need it and closeness when I ask for it. Give me time to figure out who I am now after everything. Because I'm not the same woman you fell in love with 2 years ago. I know. Torin lifted her hand, pressed it against his chest where his heart thundered. But I'm falling in love with who you are now. The survivor. The warrior. The mother who'd burn the world down to protect her children. That woman? She's even more incredible than the one I met at that pack gathering. Ember's breath caught. You can't just say things like that. Why not? It's true. Because it makes me want to believe you. Makes me want to trust this. Trust us. Then do it. Torin's voice was barely above a whisper. Take the risk. Trust me. And if I fail you, when I inevitably screw something up because I'm an idiot who's terrible at emotions, call me on it. Yell at me. Make me fix it. But don't run. Please don't run. Ember leaned forward. Slowly. Carefully. Until her forehead rested against his shoulder. Not quite an embrace, but closer than they'd been in 15 months. I'm scared, she whispered into his shirt. Me too. What if the pack really does reject me? Then we'll deal with it. Together. What if I can't be the Luna they need? Then we'll redefine what Luna means. What if? Ember. Torin so carefully wrapped one arm around her shoulders. When she didn't pull away, when she actually leaned into him, something in his chest cracked open. What if we stop asking what if and just take it one day at a time? No pressure. No expectations. Just us. Figuring it out. From the monitor came a soft cry. Nash, probably. He always woke up first. Ember pulled back, but she was smiling. A real smile that reached her eyes. One day at a time? One day at a time, Torin confirmed. Okay. She stood, headed toward the bedroom. Paused at the doorway. Torin? Thank you. For telling me the truth. For letting me see the scared parts instead of just the strong alpha parts. Thank you for staying, he said. For giving me another chance I definitely don't deserve. Maybe we both deserve a second chance, Ember said softly. Then she was gone, tending to their son, and Torin sat alone by the fire thinking that maybe, just maybe, they were going to be okay. The pack ceremony was in 3 days. Ember had agreed to it. Not enthusiastically, not without fear, but she'd agreed. She'd even worked with Marcus to plan her introduction, to practice her speech, to prepare for the moment when 200 wolves would judge whether she was worthy to be their Luna. She'd been getting stronger. Eating regularly. Healing. Her ribs no longer ached with every breath. The bruises had faded. She'd even felt her wolf stir a few times, nothing strong enough to shift, but present. Aware. Slowly waking from its long hibernation. Torin had been patient. Supportive. He'd helped with the babies every night, had made her laugh with his terrible attempts at baby talk, had given her space when she needed it and closeness when she asked. They'd fallen into a rhythm. Not perfect, but real. Honest. She'd started to believe. That was her first mistake. The call came at 2 a.m. Torin's phone buzzing insistently on the nightstand. He'd been sleeping in the guest room still, giving Ember the master bedroom, but she heard him answer. Heard his voice go cold and sharp. Heard him moving, getting dressed, making more calls. She found him in the living room, fully dressed in tactical gear, weapons strapped to his body. What's happening? Ember asked. Emergency at the pack house. Rogue attack on the eastern border. Torin was checking his gun, his movements efficient and deadly. I have to go. Marcus is on his way up. He'll stay with you and the babies. How long will you be gone? Few hours. Maybe more. He looked at her, and something in his expression made her stomach drop. Lock the door behind me. Don't let anyone in except Marcus. Not anyone. Understand? Torin, you're scaring me. He crossed to her, cupped her face in his hands. I love you. Remember that. No matter what happens. No matter what anyone tells you. I love you and those boys more than my own life. Then he kissed her. Hard and desperate and too much like goodbye. And he was gone. Marcus arrived 10 minutes later. Tall, broad-shouldered, with kind eyes and a warrior stance. He nodded to Ember, positioned himself by the door, and didn't speak unless spoken to. The first hour passed slowly. Ember fed the babies, changed them, put them back down. Tried to sleep but couldn't. Her wolf was restless, pacing inside her chest, whining with anxiety. Something was wrong. The second hour, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Hello? Ember Solace? A woman's voice. Professional. Cold. Yes. This is Elder Miriam from the Obsidian Shadow Pact Council. I'm calling to inform you that Alpha Torrin Vance has been detained by the Council pending an investigation into his recent behavior and decisions. Ember's blood went cold. What? No. He's dealing with a rogue attack. There is no rogue attack. Miriam's voice was flat. That was a diversion to get him away from you. The Council has voted unanimously to invoke the Alpha Challenge Clause. Torrin's position is under review. And as for you, we've received some very disturbing information about your background that requires immediate investigation. What information? We'll discuss it when you arrive. A car is being sent to collect you. You'll come alone. The children will remain with Marcus until this matter is resolved. I'm not leaving my babies. You don't have a choice, Miss Solace. This is pack law. You're not Luna yet. You have no protection. No rights. You will comply or face exile. The line went dead. Ember stared at her phone, her hands shaking. This was wrong. All of it was wrong. Marcus, she called. He appeared instantly. Something's happening. The Council, they said Torrin's been detained. That I need to come to the pack house. Marcus's expression darkened. Alpha's orders were clear. You stay here. You don't leave for anyone. But they said. I don't care what they said. Marcus's hand went to his weapon. You're under Alpha's protection. That supersedes Council authority. A knock at the door. 3 sharp raps. Marcus moved to check the security camera, then swore viciously. It's the enforcers. Council must have sent them. Can we? No. They have legal authority. Marcus looked torn. Miss Ember, I need you to listen carefully. Whatever they tell you at the pack house, whatever they show you, it's a trap. The Council wants you gone. They'll say anything, do anything. The door burst open. Not knocked down, someone had used a key. Council override. 6 wolves poured in, all in enforcer uniforms, all armed. They surrounded Ember before she could even think to run. Ember Solace, the lead enforcer, said, You're coming with us. By order of the Council. My babies? We'll be fine. Marcus stays with them. You come with us. Now. They didn't give her time to argue. Didn't let her say goodbye. They just grabbed her arms, not roughly, but firmly, and marched her out of the penthouse, into the elevator, down to a waiting SUV. The drive to the pack house took 40 minutes. Ember spent every second fighting panic, her wolf howling inside her chest, her maternal instincts screaming at her to get back to Knox and Nash. But she was trapped. Powerless. Exactly as she'd always feared. The pack house was blazing with lights when they arrived. Wolves lined the halls, watching her with hostile eyes as the enforcers marched her to the council chamber. The massive oak doors swung open, revealing the 12 council members seated at their table. And standing in front of them, hands bound in silver chains, was Torrin. His eyes found hers instantly. Something like devastation crossed his face. Ember. Silence. Elder Miriam's voice cracked like a whip. The Alpha will speak when spoken to. She turned her attention to Ember. Miss Solace. Thank you for joining us. I didn't have a choice, Ember said coldly. No, you didn't. Miriam smiled. It wasn't a kind expression. We've uncovered some interesting information about you. Information that, had we known it sooner, would have prevented this entire mess. She nodded to another council member, who activated a screen on the wall. Images flickered to life. Documents. Photos. Records. Ember's heart stopped. Your mother, Miriam said. Jessica Solace. Born Jessica Thorne. Daughter of Marcus Thorne. Sister to Isolde Thorne. The room spun. No, that wasn't possible. Your mother was a wolf, Miriam continued. A pure blood from the Thorn Pack. She ran away when she fell in love with a human. We assumed she died. We were wrong. She simply hid. Changed her name. Had you? Never told you what you really were. Ember couldn't breathe. Her mother had died when she was 10. Had never mentioned wolves or packs or anything beyond normal human existence. It had all been a lie. That makes you, Miriam said softly, Isolde Thorne's cousin. Blood relation to the woman Torin rejected to be with you. It makes this entire situation rather convenient, doesn't it? The jilted fiancé's secret cousin appears out of nowhere, pregnant with the Alpha's children, positioned to take everything Isolde lost. That's insane, Ember whispered. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. Perhaps you didn't. Miriam's eyes were cold. Or perhaps you and Isolde orchestrated this entire thing. Perhaps those children aren't even Torin's. Perhaps they're mine. Torin's voice roared through the chamber, pure alpha command, so powerful that several council members actually flinched. I don't give a damn about her bloodline or her connection to Isolde. Those are my sons. My mate. And if you think some conspiracy theory is going to change that, we're not asking you, Alpha. Elder Thomas stood. We're telling you. Ember Solace is to be exiled pending DNA testing of the children. If they're proven to be yours, we'll revisit her status. Until then, she is forbidden from Packlands. Over my dead body, Torin snarled. That can be arranged. Isolde's voice cut through the chaos. She stepped out of the shadows at the back of the chamber, dressed in ceremonial robes, a silver knife in her hands. I invoke the ancient right of Alpha Challenge, Isolde said clearly. For the crime of breaking a blood oath, for endangering pack stability, for placing personal desire above pack welfare, I challenge Torin Vance for leadership of the Obsidian Shadow Pack. The room erupted. Wolves shouting. Council members arguing. And through it all, Torin's eyes locked on Ember's. In them, she saw rage, desperation, love, and fear. Because they both knew Isolde had been planning this. Had been planning it from the very beginning. And they'd walked right into her trap. The challenge arena was an ancient thing, a circular pit carved into the earth behind the pack house, surrounded by stone seats worn smooth by generations of wolves who'd come to witness blood and dominance. Torches lined the perimeter, casting everything in flickering orange light that made shadows dance like hungry spirits. Ember stood at the edge, held in place by 2 enforcers forced to watch. The council had made it clear she would witness what her presence had cost. Would see Torin fight for his life because of her. Would carry the guilt of it forever, whether he won or lost. Isolde stood in the center of the arena, already half-shifted. Her bones cracked and reformed, her face elongating into something between human and wolf. She was experienced at this, the partial shift that gave you claws and fangs and strength while maintaining enough humanity to use weapons and strategy. Torin stood opposite her, the silver chains finally removed, his body tense and coiled. But something was wrong. He was moving too slowly. His balance was off. The silver, Ember realized with horror. They kept him in silver chains for hours. He's poisoned. Marcus, standing beside her, nodded grimly. Weakens the wolf. Makes shifting harder. It's not against the rules, but it's not honorable either. This isn't a fight, Ember hissed. This is an execution. Yes, Marcus agreed quietly. That's exactly what this is. The challenge began without ceremony. Isolde lunged first, moving with predatory grace, her clawed hand slashing toward Torin's throat. He dodged, but not fast enough. Her claws caught his shoulder, tearing through fabric and flesh. Blood sprayed. The crowd roared. Torin countered, his fist connecting with Isolde's ribs. She grunted, stumbled back, but she was smiling. Actually smiling. You're slow, she taunted. The silver's in your blood now. Every second you fight, it spreads further. Makes you weaker. I've fought through worse, Torin growled. Have you? Isolde circled him. Have you fought while knowing your mate and children are about to be exiled? While knowing that even if you win, the council will find a way to remove her. while knowing that I've already won, regardless of how this ends. She struck again. This time her claws raked across Torin's chest, deep enough that Ember could see bone. He roared in pain, dropped to one knee. The crowd went silent. "Yield," Isolde commanded, standing over him. "Yield, and I'll let you live. You can leave with your dignity intact. Find some other pack to take you in. But she stays here. The children stay here. My children now, by pack law." "Never," Torin spat blood. "They're mine. They're leverage." Isolde leaned down, her voice dropping so only Torin could hear, but Ember's wolf was finally waking, sharpening her senses, and she caught every word. "Did you really think I wanted you? You're a means to an end. Those babies, true alphas with pure bloodlines, they're worth more than you could ever be. Their blood will make me powerful enough to take over my father's pack. Their existence legitimizes my claim. And once I have them, once I've bled them just enough." Torin surged upward with a roar, tackling Isolde to the ground. They rolled, a tangle of claws and fangs and violence. But he was fading. The silver was winning. Each movement came slower than the last. Ember's wolf howled inside her chest. Howled with rage and fear and something primal that had been buried for too long. Protect the mate. Protect the pack. Fight. "No," Ember whispered. "Fight. I can't shift. I haven't been able to. You never needed to shift. You needed to be angry enough to remember who you are." And suddenly, Ember understood. Her wolf hadn't disappeared. Hadn't abandoned her. She'd been there all along, buried under trauma and fear and the belief that she was too broken to be powerful. But she wasn't broken. She was a mother who'd kept her children alive against impossible odds. She was a survivor who'd endured 15 months of hell and come out breathing. She was a wolf, and her mate was dying, and she was done being helpless. "Let me go," Ember said to the enforcers. "Can't do that, ma'am," one said. I said, her voice dropped into a register she'd never accessed before, something primal and commanding and utterly inhuman. "Let me go." The enforcer's hands fell away. They couldn't help it. "Luna command," her wolf whispered. "You always had it. You just never believed you were worthy of using it." Ember vaulted over the stone barrier and dropped into the arena. The crowd gasped. Council members shouted. But Ember didn't care. She was moving on instinct now, her wolf guiding her, showing her what she'd forgotten. Isolde had Torin pinned, one hand around his throat, the silver knife from the challenge ceremony pressed against his chest. "Any last words, Alpha?" "Yeah," Torin choked out. "Behind you." Isolde spun just as Ember slammed into her. They crashed to the ground. Isolde recovered first, slashing with the knife. It caught Ember's arm, sliced deep. Pain exploded through her, but she didn't stop. Couldn't stop. Because her children were in danger and her mate was dying, and this woman, this monster, thought she could take everything. Ember's wolf surged forward. Not a full shift, she still couldn't manage that, but enough. Enough that her teeth elongated. Enough that her nails became claws. Enough that when she sank those claws into Isolde's shoulder, the other woman screamed. "You want my children?" Ember snarled. "You want to bleed them for power? You want to take what's mine?" She ripped her claws free. Isolde stumbled back, clutching her shoulder, her eyes wide with shock. "I am Ember Solace," Ember said, her voice carrying across the arena. "I am the mate of Torin Vance. I am the mother of Nox and Nash Vance. I am a survivor. I am a wolf. And I am done being afraid of you." She advanced. Isolde retreated. The power dynamic had shifted so completely that even the crowd could feel it. "The council can exile me," Ember continued. "They can claim I'm not worthy. They can question my bloodline or my strength or my right to stand here. But I am standing here. I survived everything you tried to do to destroy me. And I'm still here." Isolde's back hit the arena wall. Nowhere left to run. "You made a mistake," Ember whispered. "You thought breaking me would be easy. that a woman who lived on the streets would be too weak to fight back. But you forgot something important. What? Isolde spat. I've already lost everything once. I have nothing left to fear. Ember's hand shot out, wrapped around Isolde's throat. But you? You've never known real suffering. Never known what it's like to have everything stripped away. So let me teach you. She squeezed. Not enough to kill. She wasn't a murderer, no matter how much rage burned in her veins, but enough to make Isolde understand exactly how close to death she was. Yield, Ember commanded. Never, Isolde choked out. Wrong answer. Ember threw her across the arena. Isolde hit the ground hard, the knife skittering from her grip. Ember picked it up, walked slowly toward the woman who'd tried to destroy her family. Last chance, Ember said. Yield or I end this. Behind her, she heard Torrin struggling to his feet. Heard his voice, rough and proud. That's my mate. That's my Luna. And suddenly, Ember felt it. The bond. Twisted and infected for so long, suddenly flaring to life, bright and clean and whole. Healing. The silver poison was still in Torrin's system, but the bond was feeding him strength, feeding them both strength. They were connected. Finally, truly connected. Isolde looked between them, saw the power flowing through the mate bond, and something in her expression cracked. You can't win. The Council. The Council will accept my Luna, Torrin said, his voice gaining strength with every word, or they'll face me. All of them. One by one. I'll challenge every elder who thinks pack law matters more than the mate bond. Every wolf who thinks bloodlines matter more than strength. Every single one. He moved to stand beside Ember. Together, they faced Isolde. Yield, they said in unison. Luna and Alpha. Perfectly synchronized. Isolde looked at the knife in Ember's hand. At the blood on the ground. At the crowd watching with hungry eyes. I yield, she whispered. The arena erupted in chaos. The pack house's medical wing smelled like antiseptic and blood. Torrin sat on an examination table while the pack healer flushed the silver from his system, a painful process that involved activated charcoal and herbs that smelled like burning sage and made him gag. Ember sat beside him, her own wounds bandaged, refusing to leave even though exhaustion was pulling at her like a physical weight. The babies had been brought to them an hour ago, Marcus delivering them personally with tears in his eyes. Knox and Nash were oblivious to everything that had happened, simply content to be held by their parents again. The council had convened an emergency session. The results had come back an hour later, unanimous vote to accept Ember as Luna. Whether it was genuine acceptance or simple fear of what Torrin would do if they refused, Ember didn't know. Didn't care. She'd fought for her place. She'd earned it in blood and rage and desperation. That was enough. You shifted, Torrin said quietly, his voice rough from screaming during the silver extraction. Not fully, but you shifted. I got angry, Ember replied, gently rocking Nash. Turns out that's all I needed. Not peace or safety or healing. Just rage. Remind me never to make you angry. She smiled despite everything. Too late. You've made me angry plenty. Fair. He winced as the healer pressed something cold against the claw marks on his chest. Are we okay? You and me. Ember looked at him. Really looked at him. At the man who'd broken her, and then spent every day since trying to put her back together. At the father who'd learned to change diapers and make bottle formula and sing terrible lullabies to their sons. At the alpha who'd been willing to die rather than lose his family. I don't know, she said honestly. We're not perfect. We've both made mistakes. We're both still healing from everything that happened. But there was hope in that one word. Desperate, fragile hope. But I'm not running. I'm not going to that sanctuary in Montana. I'm not disappearing. She shifted Knox to her other arm. I'm staying. We're staying. And we're going to figure this out. Together. Together, Torrin repeated, like it was a prayer. Together, Ember confirmed. One day at a time. One challenge at a time. One moment at a time. From the doorway came a voice. The Luna ceremony is scheduled for next week. If you're both recovered enough. Elder Thomas stood there, looking older than he had just hours ago. Tired. For what it's worth, I voted against the exile. I knew something was wrong. I just couldn't prove it. And now? Ember asked. Now I think you're exactly what this pack needs. Someone who's survived real hardship. Someone who understands what it means to fight for the people you love. He nodded once. Welcome to the Obsidian Shadow Pack, Luna. He left before Ember could respond. Luna, she whispered. I'm actually going to be Luna. You already are, Torin said. You proved it tonight. The ceremony is just paperwork. Nash started to fuss. Nox followed suit seconds later, their tiny voices rising in harmony. Ember laughed, actually laughed, the sound foreign but wonderful. They're hungry. Again. They're always hungry. That's because they're going to be massive, Torin said proudly. True alphas. Like their mother. I'm not. Yes, you are. He caught her hand. You faced down a trained warrior while I was down. You protected our family. You claimed your power. If that's not alpha behavior, I don't know what is. Ember wanted to argue. Wanted to say she was still broken, still scared, still figuring everything out. But looking at her sons, at their perfect little faces, and their father's mismatched eyes, she realized something. Maybe being broken didn't mean being powerless. Maybe being scared didn't mean being weak. Maybe she could be all of those things, broken and scared and healing, and still be exactly what her family needed. 1 year from now, Torin said quietly, where do you think we'll be? Ember considered. Probably still fighting. Still healing. Still figuring out how to be parents and partners and pack leaders all at once. Sounds exhausting. Sounds like life. She leaned her head against his shoulder, careful of his injuries. But we'll be doing it together. That's what matters. Outside the medical wing, wolves were gathering. Not to challenge or judge, but to celebrate. To welcome their new Luna. To witness the beginning of something that should have happened 15 months ago. But maybe, Ember thought, it happened exactly when it was supposed to. Maybe they both needed to be broken before they could be whole. Maybe love wasn't about perfection. It was about choosing each other. Every day. Through fear and pain and impossible odds. Choosing each other anyway. The ceremony happened under a full moon, in the forest clearing where generations of alphas had claimed their Lunas. Ember wore a simple white dress, nothing fancy, nothing that tried to hide who she was. Her scars were visible. Her bruises were fading but still there. She was imperfect and damaged and absolutely fierce. The pack gathered in a circle. 200 wolves watching as Torin took her hand. Before the moon goddess and this pack, he said, his voice carrying through the trees, I claim Ember Solace as my mate, my Luna, my equal in all things. I accept, Ember said clearly. Then, because she needed to say it, needed them all to hear it, and I claim him in return. Not because pack law demands it. Not because we have children together. But because I choose him. Every broken, complicated, difficult part of him. I choose us. The mate bond blazed between them, finally clean, finally whole, finally everything it was always meant to be. The pack held their approval. And in the distance, in the medical wing where Marcus stood guard, Nox and Nash slept peacefully, unaware that their parents had just changed everything. Unaware that they'd just witnessed the beginning of a legend. Would you have chosen her side? Would you have believed in a Luna who came from nothing, who survived impossible odds, who proved that strength isn't about never breaking, it's about how you put yourself back together? Would you have trusted a love story that began with rejection and pain but ended with choosing each other anyway? Because here at Cindy's Wolfheart Stories, we tell the tales that burn. The stories about broken people becoming whole. About love that has to be fought for, earned, and chosen every single day. If this story lit something inside you, if Ember's journey made you believe in second chances and Nox and Nash made you believe in hope and Torin made you believe that even alphas can learn to grovel, then subscribe. Hit that notification bell, because there are more stories waiting, more mates to be claimed, more battles to be fought, more broken things learning to be whole. And we're just getting started.